Jacko here, Master Instructor with the Oxygen Advantage, and in today's video we are looking at how we can use our breathing for as little as 10 minutes to help improve our recovery after a training session or a sporting performance. Before we get started though, click subscribe if you haven't done yet. I'd appreciate that. And also that makes sure that you aren't going to miss any more the videos that I'm producing to help you improve and change the way you breathe, to improve the way you move, feel and perform. So the idea with this video is to give you a little bit of understanding initially, but the chance to be able to literally flick this on anytime you finish a training session and you want to be able to follow a bit of a guided practice of, even if you just do it for 5 minutes, but a guided practice of maybe 10 minutes to down regulate, bring the system down, create a parasympathetic response with our breathing after the sympathetic tone or stress that we have created from our training, so that we can start to facilitate the recovery process sooner, start to help you with those adaptations so you recover quicker, more efficiently and ultimately better, so you're ready to perform again the next time you go to training. So I'll just explain a little bit what we're going to do and then we'll get stuck into the actual breathwork practice itself. So there's a couple of really important things that we can do with our breathing to help facilitate better recovery. The first one being the effect on the autonomic nervous system. Can we bring down that autonomic nervous system and down regulate and shift towards that parasympathetic state? So the sympathetic state, that fight or flight response, that we'll have created some activation of that part of the nervous system when we're exercising and training to force adaptations, but to help facilitate the recovery process, we want to shift that tone towards that more parasympathetic state. We're going to be able to do that in a couple of ways. One is in terms of starting to slow and control our breathing down. So the pace at which we breathe and extending our exhalations, which are related to the parasympathetic response, is one thing that we're going to do as we get through, and eventually we're going to go into a 4 in, 6 out where we get towards the end. To start with though, we're going to need to get control of our breathing, and then this is going to help us to pay back that oxygen debt a little bit more efficiently. So we're going to look at the efficiency of how we're breathing, being able to slow down our breathing, getting control of it and take less breaths per minute. That means we don't lose as much air in dead space with each breath that we take. There's effectively about, depending on the size of the person, 150 milliliters of air that can't be occupied in the airways, in the throat and in the lungs. So by taking larger breaths rather than fast panting breaths when you're trying to initially recover that breathing or respiration rate or respiratory rate, then you're going to be getting more usable air per breath into the body, into the lungs, so long as we can increase proportionally the size of our breath. So we're going to be looking at that from our recovery in terms of getting better oxygenation of the tissues, and then also in terms of slowing down our breathing and allowing the system to actually down regulate and get towards a little bit of a parasympathetic shift. The slowing down of the breathing will also help with that oxygenation in terms of CO2 levels are going to rise slightly, and that's going to help oxygen be released from red blood cells into the tissues themselves for that better, more efficient oxygenation of the muscles and tissues, and that's known as Bohr effect. There's some details on this in other videos, so if you I'll put a link in for that somewhere if you want to check out a little bit more detail of the science as to why that's happening. What you're going to notice is when we're going to go through it now, you're going to feel it, and when you feel it, you're going to know. And one thing you're going to look out for or notice is saliva being built up in the mouth as we work through this little breathing practice, where that is a sign that the body is shifted towards parasympathetic state, because the parasympathetic state is that relaxation, rest, repair state, but it's also rest, digest. So that digestion part of it, we notice the body preparing for digestion, and we notice more saliva building up in the mouth. So when you get that saliva building up in the mouth, you know you're doing a good job. And by the end of it, you might be literally slobbering down on the floor. Okay, so let's get started with this. It might be that you just follow for like 5 minutes. 10 minutes is a nicer period of time to do this. Or if you're really getting on with it, you might start to extend that up to 15 minutes. But great to do after any training session. You can flick to this part of the video and jump straight into it. You can do it sat down if that's comfortable. It's really nice to do lying down on the floor. When we're lying down on the floor, breathing through the nose, often for a lot of people, it helps them connect to their diaphragm a little bit more easily. That diaphragmatic breathing is going to help slow things down. It's going to help innervate the vagus nerve, which helps with that relaxation response. That diaphragmatic breathing helps with lymphatic drainage, so helping to actually get rid of some of those toxins that might have built up in the system depending on your training session. So Get yourself in a nice position, whether seated or lying on your back with your knees bent, or even your legs out straight, whatever feels comfortable for you. But I want you to create a nice long spine position, whatever shape that you're in. I want you to put the tongue to the roof of your mouth. And if you're a little bit out of breath because you've literally just finished a training session, I want us to just think about starting to get control of our breathing, starting to take some larger breaths. Just to get the breathing. If I was finished training and I'm breathing quite heavy, just take some larger breaths. And it might be difficult to do that through the nose at first. So if you need to, you can take it through the mouth. But just slow them down. If you can, we then go nose in, mouth out. You start to feel like those larger breaths, you're able to slow it down until you can eventually get yourself to nose in, nose out. So just take a couple of larger breaths with the nose. Notice the noise that you're making, and then gradually start to just slow that pace down and the size of the breath as your breathing starts to come back under control. I can start to go nose in and think about relaxing on the exhale. Nose out. We're going to stay with that nose in and nose out now that we've got the breathing under a nice control. We're going to try and keep in a nice rhythm on the way in through the nose and relaxing on the way out of the nose. And I just want you to tune into how it feels, the airflow on your nose on the way in and on the way out, as you keep relaxing on those exhales. So notice the air on the way in slightly cooler, and on the way out it's slightly warmer. I want you to notice the noise that the breath is making on the way in and on the way out as you relax. And then try to just quieten the breath. So make it quieter on the way in, and as you relax, making it quieter on the way out. And notice as you start to make it quieter, the movements of the ribs, the movements of the diaphragm are starting to reduce as your breathing comes softer and smaller, as well as quieter and gentler. And I want you to try and, you might need to extend the breath as you slow it down, but I want you to try and make it quieter and quieter and keep relaxing, letting any energy or tension go on those exhales. And as you relax and make it quieter, can you make it completely silent on the way in, and as you relax on the way out? And even if it's not completely silent, can you make it so quiet that if I was sat next to you, even though we'd both be excited, can you make it so that I wouldn't be able to hear it? And just enjoy that quietness for the next few breaths as you keep relaxing and the body shifting from that stress state from training into that relaxed state. And also notice as you keep relaxing how the size of the breath, the movement of the ribs and the diaphragm just keeps quietening down, and that stillness and that quietness of the breath, I want you to just enjoy. So it's silent in and it's relaxed out. And then I want you to keep that silence on the way in, or quiet breath on the way in. And I just want you to actively try to just extend the exhale slightly. And then a nice silent breath or quiet breath in. And extend the exhales. As you extend the exhale, don't force it, because I still want the next inhale to be silent or quiet. If you force that exhale too much, you're going to find that it's going to affect your next inhale. We want your breathing to be nice and soft and even. So quiet or silent on the way in. Just extend the exhale slightly. You might even end up with a nice pause at the end of that exhale. If that feels good and natural, let it pause. And then just a quiet, silent breath in. Don't force the exhale. Otherwise, you just start to create a little bit too much air hunger and it will affect your next inhale. Couple more breaths, silent in. Relaxing but extending those exhales on the way out. Okay, and then we're going to start to, you stay at that pace, that's good for you, but we're going to start to introduce a 4 in, 6 out count. I want the 4 in to be quiet and silent still, or as quiet as possible. And then the exhale, don't force too much air out, just let it come out through relaxation. We're going to try and breathe out for 6 seconds. 4 in, 6 out gives us a 10-second breath cycle, which is great for that heart rate variability and improving that recovery state, parasympathetic activation, as well as those extended exhales. So the 6 seconds out is longer than those 4-second inhales. Okay, 1.5 times longer ideally is what we're looking for. So on your next quiet or silent inhale, we'll go in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep with that own count in your head. Enjoy the quietness and the stillness. Relax into it. Don't force it. Start to notice there's more saliva building up in the mouth as you keep relaxing. And just note, always smile to yourself. Smiling helps you relax. But that saliva building up in the mouth is a sign that you are doing it right. You're shifting the body into that parasympathetic state, which is where not only digestion, but repair and recovery takes place. Stay with it. Don't force it. Keep it quiet on the way in. Relaxed but slightly elongated on the way out. Don't create too much air hunger, so don't make it too slow. Keep with that 4 count. 6 on the way out. Don't force the air out. Otherwise that air hunger at the end of the exhale will affect your next inhale. Okay, last breath. Obviously, if you're in a good place and you're enjoying that and want to carry on, obviously you can keep up with that with your own pace. But there's a good little practice to follow along. If you've that first initial bit about controlling our breathing initially, like, you know, if you're watching this having not exercised, you're not like thinking about, you're not panting and breathing like that. But I wanted to put that bit in at the start so that if next time you finish your training session, you can just bang this on your phone straight away. You can skip to this part of skip a few minutes into this part, to the initial part of it. Use that to practice getting your breathing under control in terms of like switching from mouth, fast panting to larger breaths, and feel free to use the mouth to start with for that, but knowing you want to gradually turn that into nasal breathing. So nose in, nose out eventually, but you might go nose in, mouth out as an interim between those two, between the mouth breathing and the nasal breathing. Then once you're under control, start to just slow it down, quieten it down. Using the noise as a great sign of like, are you slowing and softening it down? And then start to extend those exhales gradually before coming into that 4 in, 6 out, which gives us that 6 breaths per minute, so 10-second breath cycle, and those longer exhales for that parasympathetic response. If you are feeling like relaxed, should be 1, you should be feeling nice and relaxed and calm. You might feel like we're going to have a little bit of sleep. Give us a thumbs up on the video. And if you've noticed more saliva building up in the mouth, let me know in the comments. I'm always interested to hear that. And note to yourself that saliva building up in the mouth means that you have created that parasympathetic tone within the body or activation, and that's a good thing. That's where we're trying to get to. So I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're feeling relaxed. And I hope that's been helpful. If you're lying down on the floor, so let's just gradually move about a bit and get yourself back up to sort of seated, and before you go about the rest of your day. And if you think this is going to be helpful for somebody else, I'd love and really appreciate you sharing it. If you haven't yet subscribed, make sure you hit subscribe, and then like I said, let me know in the comments how you got on with it. And this would be a great one for you to, at the end of any training session, you can watch this back, and even if you just do it for like 5 minutes or even just 1 minute, it's going to be better than nothing. Just give your brain, your central nervous system, the chance to down regulate after training, rather than like finish your training session and just jumping straight in the car or jumping straight to eating some food or a protein shake. When you down that protein shake or whatever it is after whatever you're doing to refuel after that training session, if you've not created that sense of relaxation for the body, you've not stimulated that production of saliva, the body isn't in a state to be able to digest and ready to actually take on those nutrients that you're putting in. So take a few minutes, even if it's just 1 or 2 minutes, 5 or ideally 10, longer if you want, to get into that state, and then start to refuel when the body is ready to take up those nutrients, and then get on with the rest of your day in a nice calm and relaxed state, knowing that you are prepping the body for better recovery with your breathing. So until next time, keep it nasal.